Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here. This is really exciting to come back to Rome again. Imagine for a moment, somewhere out here in Georgia, there's a high school student that's a natural athlete, the next great football player, the next Heisman Trophy winner, and the only thing that they have is a PE class, a books on athletics in the library, and some videos you can watch about athletics. Maybe a poster on the wall describing athletics. Maybe you have an athlete come in and talk to the student. What's the chances this student is going to go to the university, NCAA athletics, and on to the NFL? Anybody want to venture a guess? No? A lot of no's. It's my perception this is the way we treat a lot of students that want to go to STEM careers. Most of my peers, when I talk to my peers, I would say probably 3/4 of them, most of what they learned was after school while they were growing up. So let me give you a couple of definitions here. The National Science Foundation defines education as something that we impose upon students. Learning is something students choose to do. If you were to poll my peers, many of them would talk about amateur radio, rocketry, chemistry, director sets, rock collecting, exploring nature. Today, we add activities like robotics, FIRST robotics, VEX robotics. When I was growing up, a common complaint was if you tried to get more support from the school would be like, well, you're too smart, we can't deal with that. I actually heard a school principal a couple of years ago in another state say, we're good, we don't do that here. I believe informal STEM education is as important to the recruitment and retention of STEM students as after-school sports is to the NCAA and professional athletics and music is to the conservatories. This position is supported by the National Science Teacher Association and the National Science Foundation. There are a lot of well-known STEM activities. I think one of the most successful ones is the FIRST robotics competition. These students gain real-life job experience skills. These students were given 6 weeks to design and build those robots that weighs up to 150 pounds. They're built not with hobby parts. The parts are not from Radio Shack. They're not from a hobby store. Those are industrial parts and components, the same parts and components that's used in industry to build factories, many other machines, industrial machines. So we're going to show you a very short video, about 4 minutes, about what is FRC.
It's a team of dozens of high schoolers.
Like us.
Like us.
Like us.
Like us.
Like us. All kinds of kids.
One box of parts.
No instruction manual.
Just 6 weeks of time.
Limited resources.
A lot of teamwork and a lot of hard work.
A little bit of luck.
And boatloads of imagination and inspiration.
FRC is the flagship in a progression of 4 robotics programs that make up FIRST.
What's FIRST?
For inspiration and recognition of science and technology.
FIRST is designed to introduce kids of all ages to the fun and excitement of science, technology, engineering, and math, and motivate them to pursue education, career opportunities, and become leaders in these important fields. Founded in 1989 by inventor Dean Kamen, FIRST has grown steadily to become an international phenomenon.
Being on a FIRST team helps us build self-confidence,
Knowledge.
And life skills, like working as a team.
Welcoming and respecting all ideas.
And leadership.
We call it sport for the mind. The best part is
Anybody can play.
On every FRC team, there are lots of jobs.
Brainstorming. Electrical and mechanical engineering.
instruction,
metalworking,
Programming.
Prototyping.
fundraising,
community outreach,
Website designing.
team branding and costume making.
We need every kind of skill to succeed.
Which is why we welcome every kind of person and their ideas.
And nobody gets voted off the island.
Basically, this is a sport where if you show up, you can play. And every player has the same opportunity to turn pro when they finish their schooling.
Each season, FRC teams are challenged to design and build a robot that can play a difficult game on a special playing field. And they are given just 6 weeks to do it.
If I was 15 again, this is what I'll be doing. Each team gets sent the same robot kit, but without any instructions. Instead, they're given a manual about the game and how the robot must play. The games change every year and they can be pretty complicated. But it's not just about the robots, it's about building self-confidence and building respect. It's not so much about winning and losing. It's really about the experience, learning, and building your mind to compete tomorrow.
It's the hardest fun you'll ever have.
FRC games are usually designed to be played by alliances of 3 teams on a side, so each team has to build relationships with others who will be their partners and sometimes their opponents. Everybody helps everybody else and treats all players with respect, what FIRST refers to as gracious professionalism. FIRST ideology encourages
Teamwork.
Inquisitiveness.
Overcoming challenges.
Perseverance.
Treating everyone fairly. Hard work.
Leadership.
Having fun!
Hundreds of FRC teams compete at the FIRST Championship in St. Louis. And over $18 million in scholarships are available to hundreds of deserving students. So that's FIRST Robotics Competition. To join, mentor, volunteer, or sponsor a team, visit FIRST on the web.
That's what the FIRST Robotics Competition looks like, which is the premier high school program that builds the big robots. The progression actually starts with Junior First Lego League in kindergarten. It goes through First Lego League in middle and elementary school and high school, and there's an intermediate size program comparable to VEX at the high school and late middle school level. So I want to ask you, think for a moment about what you do on a daily basis and where did you learn it? Did you learn it in school or did you learn it on the job? A few years ago, MIT conducted a survey of engineering graduates that were several years into their career, and they asked them this question. And the pervasive answer is about half of what they use on a daily basis they learn on the job, and the other half in school. So I'd like to suggest that what we learn in school is about 1/2 of what we need. Informal programs are very important. There's an old maxim that we produce what we measure. Much of the focus of K-12 education is test score maximization, and poof, a hope that a student will stumble into a career. I'm all for preparing students for academia and making them the best students that we can, but it doesn't sufficiently address student motivation. Informal education helps make STEM relevant, it makes it exciting, it makes it engaging, it helps focus the student, and when they get to the universities, whether it's the university, the technical college system, or whatever their post-secondary choices are, they're more committed. They understand better what they want to do. They just didn't randomly pick a career. Going back to the sports analogy I gave a moment ago, let's just say NCAA athletes chose their sport program from a brochure. Unfortunately, a lot of careers get chosen that way. Nationally, there are about 250,000 grades of F handed out each year in university Calculus 1 courses. If you just conservatively estimated a cost of $2,000 per student, that's $500 million that's wasted. Part of it's lack of preparation going into the university, but I think a lot of it is motivation and commitment. I'm just throwing this number out there. Maybe formal classroom education is half of what you need, and informal is the other half. One complements and reinforces the other. This past April, Atlanta had the first Atlanta Science Festival ever. There were 30,000 attendees during the week of the Atlanta Science Festival. 2,000 kids came to the Kell Robotics Innovation Center in Kennesaw. We're not an institution, we're just a high school club. Almost all of them wanted to start a team, or join a team, or become engaged in some type of informal STEM activity. I think a big part of the problem that we have in advancing our workforce development, our economic development, and STEM education is that we the students are denied an opportunity for informal learning opportunities. They become discouraged, disengaged, and drift away. So, how do we get there? In Georgia, there are about 7,500 STEM undergraduate degrees given each year in USG, the University System of Georgia, and the private universities, and some out of the technical college system. Every 100 students that graduates high school, about 7 of them will come out with a STEM undergraduate degree. 2 of them will become engineers, 2 of the 7, 2 will become biologists, probably heading toward medicine. The other 3 are spread across the sciences. Sort of on my own, I kind of came up with an idea of what could we do that's practical. There's something called SMART criteria, that's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Been thinking about this for a few years and says, why don't we just double the production? I think we can do that just based on the experiences and my interactions with students on our team, other teams, and all over Georgia, all over the country. I did a little research. It turns out this thought was recently confirmed by comments from an article by Dr. Wayne Clough, former president of Georgia Tech, and also a recommendation from the National Academies of Engineering. So in the future, 100 high school graduates will produce 14 undergraduate STEM majors, and you ask any school administrator, do you think you can find the academically qualified students today and nurse them in that direction? And they'll look around and say, yes, I think we can do this. So these are prepared students that's just uncaptured. A rising tide floats all boats. We will capture a lot more talent than that into a lot of other industries, into the technical college system, and to other types of professions. Is this doable? Yes, it is doable, but if we want to get there, we need informal STEM measures, and one of the best examples of that existing is FIRST Robotics from K through 12. Just a week ago, I was at a major international education conference in Atlanta. A year ago, we went to South Carolina, started a team, a high school robotics team in a small farming community in a backwater of South Carolina. They just finished their first year as a rookie, building robots like this. I ran into the teacher at this educational conference just a week and a half ago. I said, hi, how are you doing? How's the team going? She lamented that she was losing, it was a happy lament, she was losing 7 students. They were going down to road and transferring to another school, similar to a career academy here, and take STEM-related joint enrollment opportunities, and they were making their career plans. So I said, how many students did your school graduate this year? He said, just over 100. Poof, like that, there's your cohort of 7 from the class of 100. Much of what I read in these thick, dense reports on education talks a lot about preparation, and preparation is important. We talk a lot about economic development numbers. We try to tell the kids this is where the jobs are. I think it's a much more appealing message if you explain relevance to the kids, why it's important in human terms. Not that it's just that's where the jobs are, but it's important, it's satisfying, it's rewarding. So there's a lot of evidence and peer-reviewed studies that proves that relevance and rewards has positive impact on student choices and motivation. Our team, we consistently send more girls than boys into STEM careers. We consistently transform non-prior inclined students into STEM fields. We place students as young as 16-year-old into engineering internships. Our college-age university students and graduates have worked for or are working for companies such as General Electric, Coca-Cola, Disney Imagineering, Microsoft, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Newell Rubbermaid, Newcomb Boyd, and a range of Deloitte and a range of Georgia companies. Most of these students had planned to go into the humanities, music, law, and so on. Okay, everybody sitting down? Our current high school students and college alumni that are in engineering internships at this very moment have annual pay rates of between $30,000 to $60,000 a year. There's a growing list of companies that want to see informal STEM programs like FIRST on applicants' resume. Just yesterday, I was passed a note from the Vice President of Human Resources for the Bosch Company. The Bosch Company does $10 billion in revenue in North America. They're going to hire over 400 employees, and they want to see FIRST Robotics on the resume. This past year, a student off of our team at Virginia Tech, she went and applied for her first job ever at a university job fair. She's halfway through her engineering degree. Within a few minutes, 3 companies were on alert. They saw her resume, they saw her grades, they saw the first background, and made moves on recruiting her. Nestle, Honeywell, and General Electric. The resume went to the top of the stacks. This summer, she's working at the international headquarters of General Electric, making the top end of that pay range I just described. So what should a Georgia school look like? If you go to any Georgia school, you'll see the academic building, you'll see the athletic component of the campus, you'll see the fine arts component of the campus, the theater, and everything else. I think every school should have a wing that has CNC labs, the computer lab, the STEM enrichment lab, where the students can come in after school. They can use these facilities during the school too. That's great. But some of them will self-select and stay there after school, and those are the ones that are deeply passionate and are catching fire. And that's the Heisman Trophy winners of STEM education. We have to reach out to them. Otherwise, we're just throwing all this talent away. What should a university look like? The Georgia University. There are gaps in teacher training that's being closed by a network of people outside of education. What we are doing at Kell Robotics, I believe, is part of that solution. Of the FRC teams in the state of Georgia, Kell Robotics has helped train over half of them. Teachers, mentors, students drive over 200 miles to our facility. We opened this place 3 years ago. We've partnered with and signed teaming agreements with Kennesaw State University and Mercer University. We're exploring partnerships with the Technical College System of Georgia. In 2008, I sketched out a plan to create regional STEM centers across Georgia. Interestingly, the University System of Georgia and Georgia Tech conducted a review of state-level STEM programs across the United States. In that report, they discussed the possibility of a regional-level STEM center to be hosted at universities around the state. This isn't current USG policy, but it does follow the model that we've been piloting at Kell Robotics. So our next step, we're going to continue to do our work. We'll expand and develop these centers at our university partners. We'll continue to prove to USG, TCSG, and the rest of the policymakers in the state that this can work. I think the development of university STEM enrichment centers is one of the most impactful things that we can do to help advance STEM education in Georgia. To do this correctly, we will need participation from non-traditional partners in education, like the engineering and science community, and other organizations that knows what it takes to make an engineer or a scientist. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
But these are during school classes as well. Is that an elective?
Most schools in Georgia do not have these types of engineering programs, and I don't know of any school that actually does. I don't want to say that, but I know in sciences, they're trying to develop informal enrichment activities, but I think most informal stuff is done after the school. The problem is that the way we do education, it takes the oxygen out of the room. If you talk to teachers, they love what they do inside of the class. They hate everything outside of the classroom, all the stuff that they have to deal with, and there's no oxygen left in the room for them to go off and pursue informal activities. That's one problem. The next problem is we've had a great deal of trouble with administrations having the money or the leadership or whatever to get behind it. I can tell you thousands of horror stories there, but I've seen the climate change in Georgia and nationally more in the past year than I've seen it change in my entire life. There's probably more change going on right now this year than there has been in the past 10 years cumulative.
You typically be seeing a teacher who has a real interest in this, committing to staying after school and working with the students.
It takes some seriously crazy committed people to do this. I've been volunteering to do this this is my, I don't know how many years this is, 10th year, I think. I'm an engineer. It's something I'm passionate about. Most of the people that run these informal STEM programs, probably 75% of them, I'm just guessing, I don't know, I'll have to go find out the statistics for that, I'd like to know, are doing it because they're passionate about the profession. They'd like to give kids opportunities. And unfortunately, education has been sort of late to the table. Yes?
Are you going
Sure. Let's fire them up. Let's. Every year they build a robot. They name it. For years they've named it after me. My first name, my middle name, my last name. This year is named after my mom. So they're going to fire up a machine called Irma. And so we took it to Myrtle Beach to the regional competition, the South Carolina Palmetto regional competition, and she actually was living very close to where the competition was, so they got the press out there to see her. Yes.
Before you do that, do you have corporate sponsorships for your after-school program yet?
Most of all the informal activity that you see is done by corporate sponsorships because they're working in their self-interest. They need these people, and they, in many cases, are sort of quit giving money to education and funneling it in a different way that they know is much more impactful. So yes, we are fully funded. Our sponsors are on the front of some of these robots over here. We have about 40 sponsors. Watch out for the chandelier. Yeah, here you go. Did we forget to show the match?
No. Yeah, you forgot to show the match.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. I'll tell you what, while that's charging up, I'll show you the match video.
Drivers behind the line, and 3, 2, 1, go.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll begin this match with a 10-second autonomous period. Robots operating from pre-programmed instructions. Both alliances able to score well during the opening period. At the end of one, Blue Alliance ahead 70-60. Second period underway. That's a tele-operated period. Drivers are at the controls. Blue Alliance has one of the blue-colored game balls in its possession. Passes it off to their partner robot. 469. Ball goes over the truss. 10 additional points. Human player tried to slam that ball into the waiting jaws of the Cheesy Poof machine. Bounced out, and Cheesy Poofs had to chase it down. Symbotic scores for the Red Alliance. Blue Alliance scores as well with the triple assist. The bonus points will give them 120. 1.5 minutes remaining in this, the final match. 1678, Red Alliance gets the ball up and over the truss. Blue Alliance does the same. Cheesy Poofs now have a ball in their possession. That's the blue robot Mark 254. It shoots and scores. Blue Alliance with 170 points. Symbotic scores for the Red Alliance. Keeping it close, only 20 points separate them with less than a minute to go. Blue Alliance gets a ball up and over the truss. Another 10 points for them. Cheesy Poof's on the move, but here comes 1640. The big defensive bot for the Red Alliance. Now they back away and the Poofs score again. 40 seconds remaining. Still that 20-point separation. Both alliances have game balls that have been inbounded. Red Alliance picks up another 10. Symbotics with the ball in their claw. They maneuver down, they shoot and score. 250, and the Red Alliance has regained the lead. 12 seconds left. Blue Alliance shoots and scores. They have the lead. 6 seconds, 5 seconds. Alliance is trying to add their final points. Time has expired.
Great way to end the 2014 season. That match back and forth. Maybe a shot at the buzzer there. Tipped the victory. What'd you see?
Oh my goodness, it was back and forth the whole time. You didn't know what was going to happen from one moment to the next, and I really think that in the end, whoever had the nerves of steel was the one that will pull it out.
The score is in. Let's see who's the champion for 2014, the FRC World. John Dard, take it away.
280 to 250. It is the Blue Alliance.